Ah, welcome to my fire, weary traveler. Please, sojourn at the hearth of an old skald, and I can tell you legends of the heroes of old.
Dreams of Freedom. Reforging the Edge. By Tio the Tiffany.
Chapter 4. Guardian. And give him quick treatment, Logan finishes. The lieutenant is high priority. The medic nods, gripping his dagger tightly as it maintains the spell, keeping Lieutenant Francis floating in midair. Yes, sir, Captain. We've still got some spells left. Then he hurries off, gesturing with the dagger. A gust of wind pushes Lieutenant Francis after the medic as he hurries back to the north wall, furthest from the fighting. On the south wall, Lieutenant Ryder shouts excitedly, "Captain! Massive wave of centaurs incoming!" Logan turns toward the front line. Does Ryder have no sense of the severity of this situation? For a lieutenant, the one in charge of the garrison, no less, he'd been particularly reckless the whole battle.
Logan is glad he'd had Lieutenant Francis to rely on as a right hand so far. And this isn't even Francis's post. In less desperate times, the man was assigned to the village proper, not the garrison. Logan had ended up needing his support. What with Ryder's carelessness and the severity of the situation, the centaurs are relentless and more reckless than Logan had ever seen them. Logan sighs. He doesn't have the time or leisure to call Ryder into line. But the lieutenant is doing just fine, commanding the defenses on the wall for now. Logan can do nothing but fight and continue setting an example for his soldiers, even without Francis for the minute. Reinforcements should be here soon. But should bees don't make honey. Reinforcements have not come, and it's been hours. Logan is losing hope that they will, but he can't let himself think that way. Reinforcements have to come. Until then, he and the Seraph will have to fight it out here alone. Logan hurries to the front of the line and stands in the middle of the southern gate. There is no reprieve from the rain. Logan raises his shield in the dim light. He widens his stance and grips his sword. He takes a deep breath. Hooves thunder on the bridge as the centaurs cross. The ballistae must be firing from the wall above him, heavy bolts not swayed by wind or rain. The centaurs emerge out of the sheets of rain. Logan raises his sword and steps forward to meet them, swinging, putting all his strength and a little magic into it. One centaur falls, blue flames erupting from a wound, unquenched by the downpour. A soldier on his right fells another. The rest charge on. Logan swings and ducks, thrusts and dodges. He catches a centaur axe on his sword, blocks a two-handed overhead blow with his shield, and twists out of the way and lets them cut at each other. There are centaurs on both sides of him and ahead, Seraph behind. Logan takes a gamble and uses magic to gather his energy. He takes 2 steps forward and pushes energy and blue magic into his left hand. "Hey!" Logan roars, now surrounded by centaurs. He thrusts his fist, glowing blue, into the air. "I'm right here!" He smashes his fist to the ground, pushing the energy out. Blue bursts along the ground. A ring of blue fire leaps up. Centaurs scream unnervingly human voices and leap into the air. "Take that, you ponies. Take that for my soldiers, my people, my queen." Despite the blue fire, they rush towards him rather than away. "Oduena." Logan blocks 1 strike, 2, dodges the 3rd, lashes out once, and ducks towards the line of men he'd so foolishly abandoned. He's obstructed by hooves and horseflesh. Logan prays for protection and spends more of his carefully rationed magic particles. He gathers energy and expels it from his body in a shield that shimmers faint blue. He ducks and rolls beneath the centaur blocking his way. A dull ringing sounds in his ears. The centaurs are yelling, "Get him! I will find you!" He emerges from under the centaur, rolling across the line of blue fire he'd set, leaving him unscathed, but providing a useful obstacle to the centaurs that try to cross. More screaming comes from those who do. Logan leaps to his feet. Before he can turn to face the enemy, he realizes there are more centaurs ahead. "I only took 2 steps away." Logan glances around frantically. No Seraph. Just a sea of centaurs. He glances up. He is standing directly under the archway of the south gate. "By Balthazar, we've lost the gate." The extra spell he cast suddenly isn't so important. Hard hammering, Logan spins around, spilling magic and energy from his fingertips to paint a blue field on the archway. Then he presses his hands to his stomach and sends energy into his adrenal glands. Exhaustion vanishes as an overpowering wave of energy surges into his limbs, nearly giving him heart failure and leaving him jittery. Logan rushes further into the garrison, dodging centaurs and swords at inhuman speed. A centaur roars, "You will be broken!" The world narrows to just Logan and the centaurs surrounding him.
some only just realizing there is an enemy in their midst, and the flailing of swords, hooves, and tails. Everything else fades to a blur as Logan ducks, dodges, and blocks, with the occasional parry. Finally, seemingly an eternity later, Logan stumbles out of the crowd of centaurs into his men. The line opens to let him in, and then closes again. Logan takes a few steps, disoriented, breathing hard, and his hands shaking. Lieutenant Francis appears out of the crowd, newly healed, and, after one look at him, leads him away from the fighting. Logan sinks down onto a bench against the east wall. His adrenaline rush is fading. He hadn't used much magic, and he is trembling violently. Pure energy is strong. His heart is still racing. He looks up at Francis, breathing heavily. He'd be drenched in sweat if he weren't drenched in rain. We lost the gate. I know. What did you do to yourself? Don't recognize a magical adrenaline rush when you see one? Logan grunts. You can do that? Francis asks in surprise. A Guardian? Logan grins weakly. Guardians specialize in manipulating our own energy. All my spells, healing, fire, all energy. You're not special just because you warriors do the adrenaline trick more often. Francis smiles like he's about to laugh, then stops. That's more serious for you, though. If you need energy for spells, then you just... Logan waves it off. I run out of magic faster than energy. I'm more concerned about the crash after. Ugh. His head spins and he grimaces, leaning back more against the wall and closing his eyes momentarily. A wave of exhaustion washes over him and he sinks into it, relaxing. Logan sits bolt upright, forcing his eyes open. I'll be fine. Fine. You sure? We just lost the gate, Logan snaps. I have to be fine. His eyelids flutter. Jenna, my love. Centaurs are in the garrison. Logan blinks, hard. Centaurs are in the village of Shaymore itself. For Queen and Kryta. He takes a deep breath, huffing it back out through his nose. Divinity's Reach can't survive a siege. Caudicus, smooth-talking an audience of adoring nobles. Foul play, centaurs this far into Kryta. Logan glances back up at Francis, determination etched into his face. Let's go. He shoves off the bench, steadies himself for a moment, on the wall. These centaurs threaten my people, my country, my queen. Wait, Captain. Yes? Logan asks irritably. He was in the middle of something. The soldiers at the north gate are holding, but I think not for long. The centaur attacks there are increasing. Logan's heart sinks. They'd lost the gate, now this? And he himself is in no position to be helping much. He just burned a lot of magic. Any word of reinforcements from Divinity's Reach? Or further out? Alterbrook Crossing? Claypool? Francis just shakes his head grimly. Balthazar, protect us, Logan whispers. They're cut off. He can count on no aid from outside. He'll have to call Sergeant Walter's forces in Shaymore. Civilians, more civilians, will die from this command. Well, I've already been the cause of plenty of civilian death, haven't I? Logan thinks bitterly. Yet, his men will die if he doesn't give it. The garrison cannot fall. Divinity's Reach cannot come under siege. Jenna must be kept safe. Logan hangs his head in defeat. He squeezes his eyes shut for a moment, then looks up. There's nothing he can do. Send to Sergeant Walters for reinforcements. Tell the men at the north gate they won't have to hold much longer. Francis grimaces, but doesn't argue, which might be a little miracle. Logan had certainly done enough to not deserve the trust of his men. Francis hurries off to find... Logan supposes the next fastest runner. He should also send a message to Queen Jenna, updating her about the situation, but he can't spare anyone. Too many of his soldiers are dying, for him to spare one on a side mission. His force is shrinking by the hour. And the civilian death toll is on his bloody hands. He had failed, as Seraph Captain, to protect the people. In his element, on the battlefield, fighting and commanding an army, he had failed. There is nothing more to be said of it. Cruising on his personal, tactical, and combat ability, and letting the civil, domestic affairs slack off, he clearly can't do that anymore. And Jenna's civilians deserve more than just physical protection. They deserve justice and legal protection. Something has to change. If he survives long enough to make a change. That is the present concern, the survival of Kryta. Lieutenant Groban had been on top of his orders earlier, sending reinforcements from Divinity's Reach, but why not now? Something fishy is going on, something Logan wishes he could investigate back at HQ. But he isn't fighting just on a whim from Jenna anymore. His men need him. This battle needs him. Divinity's Reach needs him. Inspiration, passion, and motivation are his specialties, And even if he can't do much magic, Logan's presence alone boosts the confidence of his men. And he had led them into this predicament. He has a responsibility here, but he and his men need reinforcements, and there is something deeply wrong back in the city that none had arrived yet.
Concern yourself first with the centaurs at the gate, Captain, and leave me to handle our internal affairs.
Had Countess Anise known already? The Queen's advisor and right hand seems to know everything, which is her job, admittedly. Logan draws a shaky breath. By Balthazar, he hates this. He and his men are far too vulnerable out here alone. Kryta itself is vulnerable. But he can serve Kryta best on the battlefield, defending the city. Captain? Francis is back. Are you sure you're all right? Adrenaline crashes are nothing to be trifled with, especially if you can't get it back. Logan shakes himself out of his thoughts. Yes, Lieutenant, I'm fine. He draws his sword and strides toward the battle line. The centaurs are in the garrison. He just summoned reinforcements away from defending civilians, and odds are this is an inside job at some level. Anise had suspected an information leak. By Cormir, Cardicus will pay. He sets his jaw and grips his sword. His men need him. He needs to show them he is fighting alongside them. No magic for a while, though. Logan reaches the battle line and hoists his sword in the air. For Kryta! For Divinity's Reach! For the Queen! For Kryta!